is just try and buy collections. But I'm not talking about maybe the likes of eBay's. I'm talking eBay. I'm talking about looking at your local newspapers. I mean, people are clearing out lofts and garages and all that sort of stuff. Just try and buy collections. You might buy a collection and it might be full of junk, but there's one gem in there, and that's all it takes. And you can get them for, if you can find them, you can get them for not a lot of money. The other things, yeah, if you're buying new comics, now this is an interesting one. We used to go to the stores and we had to find a near mint copy before I would even buy it. If it was a new comic, it's got to be near mint. Every new comic you buy should be 9.8. There's no excuse for not buying a 9.8 condition comic. They're new. You should be able to get a 9.8. Now, what happens is, if you go to a store and they've got all the new comics in, and for some reason you'll find there'll be the whole run of comics will have a split on the spine, and that can be so infuriating. So you've got to go to the next store to try and find it. But they all come from the same wholesaler. They all come from the same batch. So you might find that every store in your town or city has got the same comics from the same wholesaler, and they've all got a split going through the spine. So effectively, you're struggling to find this perfect copy. But what we did, and it took a while, we actually found the wholesaler. So we found the wholesaler in London that was selling comics to the shops, the stores, and started to have a stall at a fair or something like that. We went to the wholesaler and said, right, you know what, we're looking to buy comics. We want to buy a few comics, buy in bulk or something like that. When I say bulk, I'm talking like, $100, $150 or something, but 200, they might have minimums. But what it does, you go to direct to the wholesaler, effectively you are getting new comics for half the price that the stores are selling them for, sometimes less. Sometimes they've got comic boxes which have got months old comics in them. So you can actually, and they'll say, oh, well, listen, we only want 25% of the cover value of those. So you have a good look through. I mean, often there's stuff in there. They're not bothered. They just want to get rid of as many as possible. So try to find your local wholesaler. I would say that if you can. I mean, you've got to be prepared to go in there and actually speak to them, get to know them, and you can't just be going in and going, oh, I just want one or two comics. You've got to go with put a little bit of money behind yourself, $100, $200, whatever it is, and say, right, I'm looking to spend a bit of money, because money talks at the end of the day. You can't be going in and say, oh, I just want one or two comics, because they're going to be like, oh, well, listen, I haven't got time for this. I want to sell a lot of comics. Anyway, that's another good thing to think about. Doing deals with dealers. Now, a lot of the time, you might be on, say, I mean, it might be a fair, it might be a comic fair, it might be eBay, wherever. But nice, that is lovely. Absolutely beautiful. It might be eBay, but doing a deal with a dealer, if you're doing a deal on one comic, he's kind of going to be like thinking, well, all right, it's one comic. So you've got to go in and sort of say, right, okay, well, I like that comic, I like that comic, I like that comic. I'm saying, if I'm talking about if they're like maybe silver and bronze age, put a few together, like, $100, $200, $300. And say, listen, right, what's the best deal you can do? I've got a few comics here. I've got a bit of money's worth. I'm looking at 10, 20%. Some of these dealers, they've got these comics sitting in boxes or on their walls doing nothing. And they can put the price on them all they like. Some of these comics, they could have had them for 2 or 3 years. Obviously, there's the hot comics, which, they want to that they're not going to do such deals on. But if you know what you're looking for, then you should be able to do some deals with them. But you've got to back it up and say, right, I want a few different comics. Just actually to let you know, there's some good comics there. Iron Fist, number 14, first appearance of Sabretooth. This, my brother's friend came to our house when we were kids, and I had, it must have been easily a 9.8. I mean, and he stole it. It was one of the best, most beautiful condition comics I had, and I'm still cross about it to this day. And it took me years later to work it out. But I was so cross about that. I really was. It was like a 9.8. I'm convinced of that. Iron Fist 14. I probably paid about a couple of dollars, well, a couple of pounds, maybe $3 or $4 for that. All of these were nothing. These cost absolutely nothing. But that was because Sabretooth hadn't really, when we were looking, we were in the Overstreet Price Guide. Sabretooth hadn't really become a big character, so we were just ahead of the curve. Marvel Spotlight 5, first appearance of Ghost Rider. I also had 2 copies of this. I don't know where the second copy's gone. Now, this is from Gary Dolgoff. He came over to London and did a fair in London, and he brought some great stuff over. I mean, I bought 2 copies of this from him, and it cost, I don't know, it's probably about £4, probably about $6. But if you look, it's actually got some inking on it, which is a bit of a shame. But, it's one of those things. So, yeah, that's about dealers, really. Let's see what we've got here. I used to be a big Ghost Rider fan. So I think we kind of covered pretty much everything there, really. Some great covers here, absolutely great covers. And you don't tend to see these on YouTube much. People tend to put the same comics on. You tend to get Marvel Spotlight 5 and all that sort of stuff. That is a lovely comic, absolutely. Look at that. Really, really nice. Now, it's not so easy for us in the UK to get our comics graded by CGC or slabbed or anything like that. But no, it's really interesting going through this. Now, like I was saying, when I was collecting, just before the crash, really, the comics crash, one of the big things that happened was variants. They started hammering us with variants, and some of the variants were just so pathetic that, I mean, I've got a classic one is foil covered Silver Surfer 50. I've probably got about 20 copies of that, and you can probably get it for $2 or something like that on the internet somewhere. Let's just go through some of these other ones. Now, these unbelievable covers. To be honest, I'm looking at these bags, and they are in a right state, because you've got these Steranko covers here are just incredible. Some of the greatest comic covers ever created. All of these need to be rebagged. I mean, God knows. To be quite honest, you know what? These comics have actually been in my garage. They've been in damp conditions during the winter. I mean, that is no way to store your comics. Please, never do that. I mean, it's only now that my wife said, will you get rid of those comics, that I've actually started going through them. What have we got here? That is, I think it was the first appearance of Bullseye. Fury. So we're almost at the end. Let's just have a quick flick through, see what else we've got. There's quite a lot of other stuff actually, so we're kind of coming to the end of this video, so I might actually just do another video where we go through Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man. That's a great comic. See here, it's a pence copy. Now, I don't know how you feel about pence copies in America. We were always trying to find cents copies in the UK. It wasn't always that easy. But that's a great comic. I mean, that's a great comic. Silver Surfer 4, fantastic cover. Hard to find in good grade. In fact, I mean, I pulled out a Fantastic Four 48 earlier. Now, for me, that is one of the most undervalued comics. That used to be a seriously hot comic when I was young, and I've had a look at some values online, and it doesn't go for that much. I'm really quite surprised. I'm just going to whiz through these quickly before we get to... Now, this is one of my favourite covers. Inside of this, there's a really cool section, and it's just got the Silver Surfer, and I think it's the Hulk, and they're just like sitting on the Silver Surfer's surfboard, and they're just like chilling out. It's really quite cool. Anyway, right, thanks for watching. Hopefully there's been some useful stuff in there. Take whatever you need from it. And I'll do another video going through the rest of my comics. But yeah, just be careful with what you're buying if it's new stuff, because a lot of the time it's almost best, I feel, to not just buy every new comic that's coming out, but to actually buy some Silver Age, and then possibly, if something does start to go up in value, to buy it at maybe $10. See you later. Cheers.